fever. La da da dee 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 dee. 100 years from now, in universities and in scholarly enclaves, they'll be playing the beer commercial, studying it. It's the folk song of our time.
For me, life doesn't end at the end of the day. It just shifts gears.
Back it up, you're done. You got to have your fun.
A beer's got to be full of taste without making you feel full. I'll stick with Coors Light all the way.
Bush. Head for the beer brewed natural as a mountain stream.
Match.
When you say but, you've said a lot of things nobody else can say.
When you say but, you say you care enough to only want the king of beers. There is no other one. There's only something less. Because the king of beers is leading all the rest.
The best beer anybody ever had, draft beer. Only they couldn't always have it where they wanted it.
You gotta take life a day at a time. And since you don't get a second chance to live it, you look for gusto where you find it.
Ooh, you are so dear. Come on, baby, I'll buy you a beer. Bull.
The only thing you can count on these days is a good beer.
It doesn't get any better than this.
Full-flavor premium beer brewed light. The light beer that shares my love of life. Hello there.
I'd sure like another Stroh's.
Oh, wait.
Alex? 2 cold Stroh's. Where do you see this? Just open the refrigerator. Just open one bottle. Just open the other. Now he's pouring yours. Now he's pouring mine. Alex, you better be drinking your water.
Draft beer used to be one of the few enjoyments people had in life. Now nobody has to settle for less than the best.
When you're out of Schlitz, you're out of beer.
Come on, I'll race you. Loser buys the pass.
Where are you going?
To get a Stroh's.
That's about a 200-mile hike through heavy snow.
I know.
If you think of it, get 2.
Mabel, Black Label. Schaefer is the one beer to have when you're having more than one.
Mabel, Black Label. I must admit, I've always had a thing on Mabel. I see her some nights in crowds, untouchable, in the dark American streets. La-da-da-dee, da-da-dee, da-da-da-da. Where are you tonight, Mabel? Da-da-dee-dee.
Oh, man, look at that. Isn't that beautiful? That's one of the most beautiful sights that man ever looks at in his daily life. Oh. Beer, the mother of us all. Look, as a matter of fact, whenever I see a beer sign or a beer commercial, there's a deep thing way down inside of me. It's kind of a warm thing that has to do with security, has to do with life. It has to do with when I was a kid. And I guess that's what beer does to almost every one of us. It's subtle. It isn't just a drink, you know. This is not Yoo-hoo. This is beer. In fact, when you go all over the world, no matter where you go, people drink beer. It's probably the only universal language we know. I remember when I was a kid, and this is why beer has this thing with me. My old man used to come home from work every day about 6 o'clock, you know. And he comes home from the plant, and he's sweating, and his face is wet with sweat. The temperature's 100 degrees outside. The blast furnace dust is drifting down. And you'd hear his feet coming up the back steps. You'd hear boom, 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 boom. Slam, the back door opens. And the instant he got in the kitchen, he was one of these guys that would start dropping his clothes. You know, his shirt comes off, and open comes the pants. He dropped. By the time he would get to the kitchen sink, he would be down to his shoes and his socks and his BVDs. He had about 3 key buttons always missing. I remember one time, I'm in the kitchen, you know, and I got this girl I'm going out with. The old man comes running in. He caught me flat-footed. And by the time he hit the dining room, there he was, flopping around the BVDs, you know. And what was the first thing he did when he shucked his clothes? He'd go over to the refrigerator, grab it, open it up, and there they'd be. Ice cold. He'd take that can of beer and he'd sit down and he'd pour that glass. And he'd take his first, I remember, I used to watch him as a kid, you know, I'm about 5 years old. That first big suck of beer, he'd take this thing. And you could see all the troubles of the world would just go drifting away from him. Then he'd take the second one. He'd pick up the paper, and he'd look down at the sport page. Here it is. It's only the 1st of June. The White Sox are 47 games out of first. The old man would take a suck of beer. He didn't care. Well, one night, you know, this is why I don't believe in guys like Edward Albee. And every time I go to the movies or I go to plays and I see these dramas about married life, I just don't believe them. I don't think people argue about stuff like emasculation. I think they argue about who takes out the garbage. You know, that's many a marriage is busted up over that. But one of the great battles that I remember as a kid was about beer. The old man came home one day. The temperature's 105 degrees out. He runs up the back steps, comes running into the house. His shirt flies off. He grabs the refrigerator door. He stops. No beer. And I could hear my mother. She's out in the living room someplace, and I could hear her gasp. She had forgotten to bring the beer home. That night, the biggest battle that I can remember as a kid was fought. And it was about beer. And I can remember sleeping, going off to sleep, you know, at 10 o'clock that night. The battle is just slowly beginning to settle down. Once in a while, you'd hear my old man holler from the next room, "Shut up!" My mother would yell something unintelligible. Ever since that time, to me, and I think to millions of other people, beer has been more than a drink. In this glass of beer, you look down into that golden, rich, bubbling, ice-cool depth, you see the echoes of lost battles. You hear the echoes of ancient victories, 1 million ball games, 10 million football games, and thousands of family moments, fights, victories, love-makings, the backseat of the Pontiac, the long trip on the way to the zoo in Dowagiac, the beer can in the weeds. When you look at that glass of beer, you're looking at life itself, the mother of us all.